Okay.
Hello, gentle viewer. We're back to hot off our viewing of episode 10, Vortex, and now Tim over there and me over here are going to share our thoughts. Tim, your first episode, first time you watched this episode rather.
Yes.
Tell me more. What do you think?
It was a weird one. I wanted to like it a lot more than I did.
Right.
I think largely because I found the Croden guy really annoying. And I just, the fact that he wouldn't shut up. And I know it was all part of his like story and his relationship with others and stuff, but it was really annoying me as a viewer. And just there was, I'll tell you what I thought immediately afterwards. I thought what this episode needed something else, so that there was slightly less of Croden and Odo.
Right.
Although I went along with that story, with Odo's story. I just it's the repetition of Odo, or pointing out that Odo is the only one of his species and stuff. It came up several times, and after the first couple of times, I'm thinking, no, you've made this point already. You don't have to keep making this point over and over and over again. And I think if there was another thread to the story, or another thread to the kind of ongoing narrative of DS9 that was included in that episode,
well, maybe you could have done with a B story.
Balance would have been better.
Yeah, maybe you could have done with a B story, because we don't really have one. You got the whole thing with that twin character, I forget his name.
Yes, which didn't really go in it. It should, but I think possibly that could have gone.
Yeah,
they could have done more with,
because that's still really part of Odo's story anyway.
Yeah,
so it could have maybe done with, I don't know, maybe that could have got wrapped up possibly before Odo and Chrono went off, so that an actual B story with another character could have played out separately.
Yeah,
but had some thematic kind of, maybe I don't know, could have been any of them really, O'Brien, Kira, whatever. He's being something about them exploring some past of their own or some such. Could have been just Kira could have, I don't know, been telling stories about her time when she's in the Resistance, or it could have been Cisco finding an old diary or something. Just something extra else.
Yeah,
because the whole thing with the twin doesn't really go anywhere, as you say.
No, he's left alone and bereft, and it's a shame. But he immediately gets angry. It goes up to the point of anger, and he stays there the whole time. And there's no, he's intractable, completely intractable. So there's from a narrative perspective, there's nothing else you can do with him after that point.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I wish I hadn't disliked or been annoyed. It wasn't a dislike; it was an annoyance with. I wish I hadn't been as annoyed with the Croden character as I was.
Yeah, it's tough.
By the time he started to kind of show that maybe there was a bit more to him than just sitting there and just being allowed to natter away incessantly. Like no.
Well, it's unfortunate, because obviously that's meant to be a key part of his character, to juxtapose with Odo, who's quite as some people call him, the silent brooding type. Odo would be quite happy to just sit there for the entire mission, taking a guy back and not spoke once. Or, as I mentioned to you in the tweet along, they could have used the set at the back of the runabout that they created for TNG, and maybe just dumped him in there.
Dumped him in there, yeah.
Or maybe even just had it on autopilot for a wee bit, and they went in the back, just so visually it's something different to look at, which can make a difference too. Because a whole load of this episode is either Croden just basically talking to Odo in the cell, or talking to each other, just sitting there on the runabout. See, that's a problem with this. One problem with this show, for me anyway, thinking on it now, is that obviously the runabouts are their ship to get out and about, do their missions and whatnot. And we only ever really see them in the cockpit section. And there's not much space in that cockpit section, really. You know, there's 2 seats and a bit of transport platform behind them. That's generally it.
Yeah.
And I know they built the rear section of the runabout, which has bunk beds and a table and presumably toilets and stuff, for TNG for this season. So I don't know if they built it yet or if they built it a bit later down the line, because timescape, the TNG episodes are a wee bit off yet. But they obviously built it during this first year of DS9. So it's odd to me, and I'm not the only person who watched DS9 to see this, that they never used it on DS9, considering how much time they spend in runabouts on any given episode. Purely visually, it makes it more, because that set, I mean, you'd have to watch the episode to see what I'm saying, but it's not huge. It's probably not much bigger than my room here, to be honest, but there's enough space for different angles, for characters to be like, one by the replicator, one at the table, one sitting on the bunk, you know, just visually to spice it up a wee bit.
Yeah, so it's
when
not
you're just sitting at the console and you can just do this, that's visually a bit dull and repetitive.
Well, it is. It's the problem. It's the problem Red Dwarf has had for ages with
Starbug. Yeah.
They're just there's there's only so much you can do, and
well, yes, very simple, isn't it? Because literally you have 2 of them at the pilot seats, and you'll have one sitting behind there, and one usually sitting behind there, and that's literally all they ever do on a Starbucks set until it gets big, or until they get bigger later.
Yeah,
because that's for quite a few seasons, isn't it?
They go back into the aft section late. Yeah.
I'm not there yet because I'm rewatching or was rewatching Red Dwarf, and I'll get back to it. So we haven't quite got to that point yet, but I know that happened for a couple of seasons, I think, where they literally just Starbug before they get back to Red Dwarf.
6 and 7.
Yeah, so it's a little while off yet.
It's the end of 7 when they get back to Red Dwarf.
Right, I'm only on, I think, about to start season 4 next when I get around to it in my so many shows to watch.
Yes.
And they keep releasing new stuff, and it's just like, stop it. I haven't got time to watch everything. But anyway, Vortex. We actually got to a Vortex. So your prediction of we'll see a Vortex was correct.
Yes.
Only as a nebula, let's be honest. It was not a vortex.
Yeah, no.
Gaseous cloud in space is a nebula.
Yeah, nebula.
And what's more important, it's a nebula they've used on TNG before. So it's like, it's not a vortex. I mean, they could have just called it nebula, couldn't they?
They could have. I just, I could. There's probably lots of things they could have called. Vortex is not a representative title at all for that episode.
It's an odd one. I mean, you've got the whole story of Odo. Just all kinds of titles could present themselves there, couldn't they? I mean, even Changeling would have been interesting. To go back to an old title I've used more once, Echoes of the Past. I've used that in all kinds of different products. One day, it'll be on TV on Doctor Who prop, and you're like, nothing to do with me, honest. But I mean, Vortex is a bit of a title, isn't it? But I will say this once again: everybody performs brilliantly in this first season episode, because I think I've mentioned too. There's few in certain sections of Trek fandom, which TNG also has. The whole, you can skip the first 2 episodes because the show gets good in the 3rd season. But as I said in one of my tweets on this one, next time somebody says that to me, I'm going to take them to this episode and say, "Oi, idiot, look and pay attention. This stuff," as I'm kind of alluded to, not to give away too much, but everything that Odo was told in this episode about the changelings, except for them being on that particular planet, is, as I know going forward, is literally true. He wasn't wrong in everything he told him. He didn't lie once about the changelings exactly. And I'm like, oh, this is actually huge, because the whole paranoia stuff, the idea that they don't tend to hold solid form unless they have to, just everything he tells him is like, yeah, this is not just, they could easily have, as writers, said when they got to the changelings and introduced them all, when it all gets introduced properly later on, when Odo, obviously is going to learn more about it, they could easily have gone, all that stuff this guy told Odo, we can actually turn out it was completely untrue. And they could have built something completely different. But it's nice that they're like, actually, no, let's make all these things, these supposed lies, turn out actually, no, this guy didn't lie as much as Odo thought he was lying.
Yeah.
Which actually probably works better, because then on a rewatch from like just now, you're like, oh, good grief, you forget how important this episode actually is. Consider it's such a small episode, really.
Yeah, it's kind of thrown away a little bit.
Yeah,
really.
it's
it's nice. It's nice that that actually they're thinking. Well, yeah.
I mean, even for yourself, as you said, it's an episode you're like, it's okay, but you didn't enjoy it as much as you kind of wanted to. But
yeah,
later on down the line, when we get to certain episodes, you'll be like, oh, actually, suddenly that really was important. It's nice to, it's kind of in a sense, I don't know if it's not deliberately, but in a sense, a bit like Fugitive of the Jadoon. Those words do not go together. In Doctor Who, where there's a lot of deliberate wrong footing going on to hide the more important stuff. Like what could have been a small episode, Jadoon, yeah, okay, turns out to be a really important episode. It's kind of like this. I did like in this episode, which in the beginning of it, one of your tweets said like, oh, it's another Quark-centric story. It's a lot of that this season. And of course, then a bit later on, as I said, she's like, well, actually, as it turns out, it's very much not a Quark episode. Although Quark has a fair bit to do in it. But yeah, this is very much an Odo. First Odo episode we've had since Man Alone.
Yeah.
I think when he was accused of killing that dude.
Yeah,
he's been around, but it's the first time we've had a proper focus on him for quite a while.
It is. We are long overdue episodes focusing on some of the other cast members, though.
Yeah. I mean, with Stuart O'Brien episode, we kind of had one O'Brien.
And we've had a few O'Briens. We've not had much of Kira, and we've not had.
We haven't actually. No, Kira's not had a focus yet, has she? Really, she's around, but yeah,
we're like 3 lines to say this time.
We're definitely due a Kira. We'll probably do another Dax soon. So we only had one really focused on her.
Yeah.
As well as trying to work out what kind of character she was. We still, other than the pilot, not had a Cisco focus episode. And we're 10 episodes in, or 11 if you count M6.
So we'll be halfway through the first series, something like that.
Well, we're 10 in, and I believe there'd be 26.
Oh, okay. So
back then it's quite large. So we're 3 off yet.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting on episode 13 actually to see if there's actually a sense of midpoint about it.
Yeah.
Probably won't be though.
Yeah, because American series have a habit of doing that kind of like midpoint, like mid-season cliffhanger, don't they?
Not back then. Not so much. But it might be. I mean, what is next? I don't even know what's next.
See,
I should probably look that up, unless you found out.
No, I didn't actually. I jumped straight off and didn't look up what was next.
Well, I'll look it up while you have a little natter.
Do I have to talk to the listener?
Yeah, talk to the viewer.
Oh, talk to the viewer. Sorry. Yeah. Hello, viewer. I hope you're well.
Tell him how much you adored this episode. How it's the best thing you've ever seen, and how.
Yes. It was a shame because I've really enjoyed the last few episodes back to back, as it were, and just it was I suppose a bit of a reality check this time to find an episode that didn't fully engage me the whole way through. There were periods where I was really caught up with it all, and then other periods where I found it annoying. So, have you found out what's next?
I did, but I'll do that. I'll tell you that at the end. But it's important. It's an important episode.
So yes, that's my kind of, I suppose that's kind of my summing up thoughts for this episode.
What did you think of the
really
Quark
engaged
thread?
at times, and then but also really annoyed, and I felt it needed something to make it a brilliant, just a little extra something to make it a brilliant episode.
Well, speaking of a little something extra, what do you think of the Quark bits?
They were good. They were a lot less humorous in tone than a lot of Quark stuff recently.
Less so than the last one.
Yeah. So it's
huge.
Yeah, a much there's a much more serious tone to those, which probably was necessary, because if there's too much of the lighthearted, then Quark becomes something of a
comedy character only.
Comedy character, yeah, exactly.
Which is, I think, Rom's stage at the moment.
Yes. Yeah, no, Rom had some nice little laugh.
Rom shines quite a lot in this episode. The whole we're dead. I love Rom. He's just, I mean, again, I'm going from the point of view I know where this character ultimately goes, but at this point, he's such a bumbling idiot. It's kind of funny.
He is.
Where he completely oh, how could you possibly accuse my brother of, and literally boom, puts Quark right in. Quark's like, you stupid idiot. What you have to speak for.
That was, I did like that. That was a great moment, that one.
Yeah, I do like this. Well, my summation of this would be, it's an odd thing that's on the surface quite a throwaway episode, because whenever it's one of these episodes I sort of forget about. So when I see it, like Vortex is coming up, I'm like, Vortex, and then of course I start watching it. As soon as this dude turns up, I'm like, oh, now I remember this is actually very important. And I like that story. As you said, a bit of Croden is all a bit, but the importance of what's going on within the scenes, I like a lot. I like that it's undercut in a sense, because obviously it just feels so boring, and this guy just, as you say, he's a little bit irritating. But then you got the stuff with Quark on the set, on the station, which is quite nice. And you have a few moments with the main cast, well, I mean, rest of the crew anyway, where they're deliberately trying to hold back the Meridon character, I believe his name is, so that he can't follow Odo. So it's not a bad episode. It's not a standout by any means, ironically, considering the stuff that's actually revealed in it. It probably should be a big standout, but oddly not.
Possibly just a draft away from being a great script.
Maybe. Well, I guess at the time, maybe when I was writing it, they didn't realize how important it was going to turn out to be. But it's a nice episode for Odo. It's nice to explore him a wee bit, because he's been around prominently in pretty much every episode. And other than that one about him being the outsider character, we haven't really delved into his desire to know who he is properly for a while. So that's quite nice.
And he's always good value when he's on screen. He's good value on screen. He's good. I mean, it's good to watch.
Well, the opening with Quark and Odo is just like, open any episode with those two, and straight away, as a viewer, you're like, I'm in. Even if it's irrelevant to the actual plot, because of their chemistry, and it's that whole, town sheriff and the mob boss, it worked really, really well. And I think it's true of what people say, that they have got a friendship, they just don't realize it. And it's going to be interesting from your point of view to see how this all develops, to see where it goes, because fortunately you're on a Star Trek show where stuff does actually go places, not where everything's status quo every week. So that's good. Cool. I think that's sums up this one then. Okay, yes, so the next episode is called Battle Lines.
Battle Lines.
It's quite
Ooh,
misleading, really, in the sense of how important this episode turns out to be. Again,
right.
just like Vortex, actually.
Yeah. Okay.
Although I think you'll recognize the importance of it fairly early on this time, because it features a character we have not seen for a while. Character even you have met, but we haven't seen for a while. So,
Oh, not that Cardassian character.
oh, that's what Ducat from the first episode.
No,
Oh,
the one that frightened Bashir in the
Garrick.
Ga-
We don't see him.
Garrick.
Yeah, Garrick. Because originally it wasn't meant to be an ongoing, I don't think.
Oh, right. Okay.
But ultimately, it's a whole thing of the chemistry is so wonderful on screen. They're like, oh, because of what Andrew
Yeah.
Watson does with the character, we absolutely need to do more of him.
Looking
I
forward to seeing
can't
him again.
recall if he's back this season. I know next
Okay.
season he starts to play a bigger role as we finally start to expand the cast beyond the core.
Cool.
I
Okay.
think he might be back this season now. I think he
All
is.
right.
I forget, but it's not him. Clearly,
Okay.
clearly not that
Fair
one.
enough.
No, definitely. But yeah, so that'll be interesting next week. It's a decent episode, actually, quite clever. I think at the end, the ending of it, it's quite like, ooh. So we shall see, or you shall see. I know.
Indeed, I shall. Yes,
You shall.
indeed. Looking forward to it.
All right then. So guys, check in with us again next week. I don't think we've got anything else planned this time, but you never know. Things could change in a week, and if they do change, we'll let you know. But
Yes.
provisionally, we shall see you all next, 2:00
Excellent.
GMT. Yeah. On
Yep.
Twitter, follow our
G&T.
tweet along of Battle Lines.
Battle
So
lines.
till then, we shall not promise never to appear again.